I played Farfetch'd in Pokemon Crystal, and then as soon as I finished it, I just got the crystal itch, and I wanted to come back and do another Pokemon in this game. However, I wanted to do something that I thought would not be as dominant, so I decided on Ekans, a mono poison type first stage Pokemon, which I don't have high hopes for, especially when Pokemon Crystal has some significant psychic type threats. Ekans as a Pokemon is not great. Obviously, it's meant to evolve into Arbok, and even then, it's not a fantastic line. For base stats, the first stage has 35 HP, 60 attack, 44 defense, 55 speed, 40 special attack, and 54 special defense. It's got a medium fast growth rate, which is not great, and its early game moveset is just atrocious. Wrap and Leer. And unlike in Generation 1, Wrap doesn't prevent the opponent from attacking. It just does a little bit of damage on every turn after it's initially been used. Luckily, Leer can pair well with it to lower the enemy's defense, but I'm gonna have to train all the way to level 9 to get access to Poison Sting. And this is slow going. Even defeating weak level 2 or 3 Pokemon in the wild takes Ekans quite some time. I wanted to play fairly conservatively, leveling Ekans up to 7 before I took on the rival. This is just so I can defeat the Totodile and gain as much experience as possible in the early game. I think I'm going to need to overlevel at pretty much every point in this playthrough just because Ekans is so weak. That said, level 7 is not overleveled enough. The Totodile still defeats me. You can keep playing after this blackout, so I'm going to in this case. I could have reset and tried again at say level 8 and then maybe defeated him, earning the experience points, but I'll leave that for my second playthrough. For now, let's just continue with this, despite the early loss. On my way to Violet City, the only bug catcher that I skip is Wade, just because his 4 Pokemon don't give very good experience yields. That means I'm arriving in Violet City at level 9, which is definitely not enough to face Falkner, and Ekans might even lose to Birdkeeper Abe. Poison Sting, after all, has an effective power of 22, which is just terrible. With the passive damage every turn, Wrap is likely the better move still at this point. Because of this position, I think it's obvious that I should go to Sprout Tower next and do more training. Just around the corner for Ekans is another move, Bite. However, this comes with some downsides in Generation 2. In Generation 1, it was a normal move that dealt physical damage. In Generation 2, it is a Dark type move which deals special damage, leveraging Ekans' lower offensive stat. By the way, Bite is the only move in this series that has switched from physical to special and then back to physical again starting in Generation 4. Obviously, physical Bite would be better for Ekans, but special Bite will have its own niche after I clear Falkner. But I'm not even going to have Bite for him, because by the time I clear Sprout Tower, my Ekans is only level 13. Fighting the 2 bird keepers inside of the gym does not level Ekans up again, so I'm hoping that 13 is going to be enough for Falkner. This battle has the potential to be really brutal, by the way. Falkner leads with Pidgey. It has Tackle and Mud Slap, a ground type move that is super effective. So it's going to be spamming it against me since this move will do more damage when compared with Tackle. So every turn I don't knock out the Pidgey, my accuracy is going to be lowered by 1 stage. Unless we encounter a bug, there is a 1 in 256 chance that Mud Slap's secondary effect isn't applied. I have mentioned in the past that some of the AI trainers and their moves have a weird debuff to their secondary effects. This is the case for a move like Icy Wind, which only has a 75% chance to afflict the speed drop whenever used by an AI Pokemon. That, unfortunately, is not the case for Mud Slap. Poison Sting is not doing enough damage. Of course it isn't, it's a terrible move. By the time I knock out the Pidgey, my accuracy has been lowered by 3 stages. I think the only way I win against the Pidgeotto is if I don't get unlucky with accuracy, I poison it early on, and my berry heals enough for me to survive its repeated attempts of using Gust. The reason it's choosing the flying type move over Mud Slap is just because it does more damage. In Generation 2, the AI is always selecting its move based on which one is going to do the most to your Pokemon, not based on type effectiveness like Generation 1. I miss against the Pidgeotto, but then Poison Sting on its first hit poisons. Alright, that's perfect. I was able to heal a little bit with a berry, but things are still not looking very good, unless I don't miss again. Poison Sting hits. Okay, that's good. Poison Sting hits again. Alright, this is looking really good. Falkner's Ace takes Ekans down to 2 hit points. Alright, please Poison Sting, you need to hit one more time. And in the moment where it really matters, It does, and Pidgeotto faints. Ekans pulls through on its first attempt. I really wasn't expecting that. I am so happy with this win, by the way. I think for the next playthrough though, the safer choice here is just going to be to grind on wild Pokemon all the way up to level 15 to get access to Bite. Poison Sting is just not going to be anywhere near reliable enough, and since the early game is quite slow anyways, my Falkner split is 13 minutes and 44 seconds, doing repeated resets or blackouts against him is just going to feel absolutely terrible. On my way to Azalea Town, I'm going to battle every available trainer except some of the really inefficient people like the Magikarp guy. I also avoid the Poliwag trainer because he is really annoying since his Pokemon all have Hypnosis. Fighting Fisher Ralph, I level up to 15 where Ekans learns Bite. This move being special is immediately useful inside of Union Cave. I can battle Hiker Daniel's Onix and defeat it very quickly, as well as Hiker Russell's Geodudes. I continue my training, battling every trainer available in here, as well as Anthony outside of the cave to level up as much as possible. Okay, here's a battle against a random Rocket Grunt in Slowpoke Well. It is not going well for Ekans. I got hit by Supersonic, and I'm hitting myself in confusion. This is dealing a lot of self-inflicted damage. I am brought down to low health, 2 hit points once again, but Ekans pulls through with another close win. When these random grunts are causing problems, you know that a Pokemon has it bad. By the way, I haven't gone through its TM and HM learn set yet, so let's do that now. It was not able to learn Swift, so I'm gonna have to wait to get a better normal move until I make it into the forest. Ekans can learn Headbutt and Return. Outside of that, it doesn't get a lot of great coverage. Giga Drain once it defeats Erica, Earthquake in Victory Road, Dig in National Park, and Sludge Bomb after the Rocket HQ. When comparing the Generation 1 and Generation 2 Ekans sets, it's clear that there's one notable omission. In Generation 1, there was a Rock Slide TM, which Ekans can no longer learn. The only way to get this move on an Ekans in Generation 2 is to transfer it through the time capsule into these games, and I won't have access to that in today's playthrough. If I could have it though, it would be useful right away because Bugsy is coming up next. With Bite, I don't need to worry about both Metapod or Kakuna setting up their defensive stats. The only problem here is going to be the Scyther. That said, I resist Fury Cutter, so its best move is going to be Quick Attack, unless Fury Cutter gets really stacked up. That said, Bugsy doesn't seem to want to prioritize this. He chooses it turn 1 and then immediately starts using Quick Attack, which is doing a concerning amount of damage, but it's not going to be enough. With Bite, I'm able to finish off his ace and take an easy second gym win. A split of 21 minutes and 4 seconds. Things have been slow going up until now, but I don't think the rival is gonna slow me down. Whenever he chooses Totodile as his starter, his team is just not very good. I made him choose this just because I did think theoretically it was the most difficult for Ekans. If he had chosen Quilava, for example, he would have the chance to burn me with Ember, which is scary. That said, once I get to National Park and pick up Dig, then I'll have super effective damage against his ace, and I won't in the case that I'm facing Croconaw because I'll have battled the final rival by the time I get access to Giga Drain. And with Ekans having a low special attack stat, I'm not sure I even want to use Giga Drain at all during this playthrough. So what's Croconaw gonna do? Well, it's gonna flinch twice to Bite. It does get in 1 Water Gun, doing a total of 8 hit points in damage, and then I knock it out. See, this Pokemon's really bad. Inside Ilex Forest, I finally get access to Headbutt, so now Ekans has a reliable physical move that it can spam. North of Goldenrod City, I pick up the TM for Dig, which I also teach right away in the place of Poison Sting. While I don't have same type attack bonus damage anymore, Poison Sting was such trash. I don't think I'm going to be using poison moves in this playthrough until I get access to Sludge Bomb. It's really the only good poison move that Ekans gets access to. Like, we do have Acid at level 37, but that move only has 40 base power. Even after the same type attack bonus, Headbutt's going to be doing more damage. And poison type coverage is not very good in Generation 2 because there are very few grass types in the game. After National Park, you'll notice here that I'm doing some training. I'm fighting Mark and Alan before I talk to Floria. The reason is I'm trying to get as much experience as possible with Ekans. I want it to be level 25 over the next damage rounding threshold before I take on Whitney. And I'm able to pull this off by fighting the trainers inside of her gym. Whitney leads with Clefairy. Headbutt's doing more than enough to knock it out in 2 turns. It chooses Metronome, uses Dig, and hits Ekans for super effective damage. It still doesn't do that much, but it's a little bit of an annoying Metronome roll. Metronome is going to roll a better move in the next battle, because spoilers, I'm not going to win against the Miltank. It's doing a lot of damage. I can't really mess it up. I can break its combo with Dig, but Stomp alone is just doing a ton. And then Miltank uses Attract, Ekans falls in love, and that's it. Okay, Metronome again. This time it rolls Spore, putting Ekans to sleep. Yeah, that one's really frustrating. Luckily, I wake up fairly soon and knock out her first Pokemon. But against Miltank, I think the way I have to play this is using Glare to paralyze it and then Dig to break the rollout combo over and over again. Also, once I've used Glare, Ekans is going to be faster and it's able to flinch when using Headbutt. I get one of these, but it's just not barely enough because Miltank hits one more Stomp and Ekans goes down for a second time. I could adjust my strategy. Here's a couple options. I could train more to say level 28 to improve my damage. I could also potentially train to 49 speed to try and outspeed the Miltank consistently, but both of those options are going to be quite slow. A faster alternative would be buying another Abra from the game corner and trading it for Machop in the department store. That traded Pokemon comes with the Goldberry, which restores 30 hit points of damage once your Pokemon falls under 50% health. This would give Ekans so much more staying power in the battle against Miltank, and then I can probably just knock it out with the Glare Headbutt strategy. That said, just fighting Whitney over and over again, Ekans is eventually going to be able to win. For the next attempt, I could see the Goldberry being the superior strategy here if I anticipate that I need that and I don't have to backtrack to the department store, but for now, I just decided to double down on the Glare Headbutt strategy. This paid off for me because in the 3rd attempt against her, Ekans flinches the Miltank 2 times in a row, giving it the leverage it needed to win. Sudowoodo is not difficult for Ekans to defeat because I have access to Dig as well as Bite. Once I arrive in Ekritique City, I had a choice of what to do next. I did fight the Kimono girls, they all end up being quite easy for Ekans, but after that I don't think fighting the rival now is the best option. Instead I'm going to do something that's a little bit weird and counterintuitive for my first playthroughs, and that's going to the Lake of Rage. On my way, I can fight Pokemaniac Miller inside of Mount Mortar. He has fantastic experience yields because his team consists of Nidoking and Nidoqueen, 2 Pokemon that I can knock out fairly quickly with super effective damage. Also at the Lake of Rage, I can fight another Pokemaniac with Nidoking, as well as this guy with Slowbro, and then this other trainer with 2 Gyarados. All of these fully evolved Pokemon give really good experience yields, and I wanted to soak up as much experience right now as is possible to make the upcoming threats much easier. I can get back to Ekritique City by simply teleporting back, and then I go to the Lighthouse next to continue my training. I just want to note here my current moveset. You'll see that I've given up Bite in favor of having both Glare and Screech on my set in combination with Headbutt and Dig. I really didn't want to give up Bite. After all, it's decent coverage and it hits ghosts for super effective damage, plus it has the upside of flinching, which Dig does not have. Although Dig is physical, and that's definitely better against Morty's ghost types. The reason I taught Screech in its place is simply because I need a solution for Jasmine, who's around the corner in the mid game, and I'm not really sure what to do against her Steelix other than lowering its defense and then hitting for massive damage with Dig. There is another option which is extremely luck based, but that's just using Swagger or potentially flinching the Steelix over and over again with a move like Bite or Headbutt, but both of those options don't feel as thought out as using Dig in combination with Screech. Also, Glare is pretty good, so I'm keeping it around at least for now. Finishing the training in the Lighthouse, Ekans reaches level 30, and this should be more than enough to face the rival in Burnt Tower. Ekans outspeeds the Haunter, so it's not going to be able to use Curse, and Dig one-shots. Magnemite's next, of course, Dig also one-shots it. Headbutt gets the one hit on the Zubat, and then the Croconaw goes down over 3 turns. It's just using terrible moves here. Rage as well as Bite, doing pathetic damage before it faints. Okay, maybe Quilava would have been better after all. It does have Smokescreen. I'm going to cut out the trainer battles here inside of Morty's gym so you can just monitor my speed stat as I defeat each one of these trainers. It goes from 61 at level 31 up to 64 at level 32 before I face Morty. This is pretty key because his Gengar has exactly 64 speed as well. So right now, Ekans is tied with it. For that reason, and because I went to the Lighthouse first, the Mint Berry is definitely the safest option for a held item. Ghastly number 1, one hit with Dig. Haunter number 1, One hit with Dig. This does not give Ekans enough experience to level up to 33 over the damage rounding threshold and over the speed threshold. Unluckily for me, I lose the speed tie to Gengar and it hits with Hypnosis. Ekans consumes its Mint Berry. I have another chance to roll for the speed tie. This time Ekans wins, going underground before Gengar attempts Hypnosis again. Question is, will Dig do enough damage to one-shot the Gengar? And the answer is, no, it won't. Gengar survives on orange health. However, Ekans wins the speed tie for a second time in a row, goes underground again, hits with Dig, and Morty's ace goes down. After that, Haunter's the only Pokemon left over, and of course it's easy to clean up. I'm headed towards Chuck next, because it's going to make the mid-game far more efficient once I earn myself Fly. I also didn't expect him to be very difficult, because I'm using a Poison-type Pokemon, which resists his primary typing. I was wrong. We'll talk about that in a second. As I make my way towards the island, I'm going to fight a bunch of trainers on the sea just to get as much experience as possible. Typically, I find with first stage Pokemon that I end up backtracking here for good experience yields after I run into a wall like Jasmine or Price. Well, rarely Price, he's pretty bad. I might as well just do this training now while I'm heading through this location for the first time. Inside the gym, Ekans has no problems against the black belts here, so now let's talk about Chuck. Primeape is first. This Pokemon is fine to start the battle with, except for the fact that it likes to go for Leer, lowering your defense stat, which means Poliwrath is going to be a little bit more incentivized to use Dynamic Punch. I decided to go for Glare here to paralyze it, and then I'm going to be using Headbutt to flinch, but it hits with Dynamic Punch, confuses Ekans, Ekans hits itself, I get another hit in flinching it, however I'm not doing that much damage, and then Ekans hits itself one more time. Because of the Leer, this is doing more damage, and Ekans faints. Next battle. No Leer from the Primeape because of a flinch. That's perfect. Poliwrath comes in next. I go for Screech against it first turn to lower its defense, taking the number of turns I need to attack it from 4 to 2 with Headbutt. If I just get a single flinch, this is going to be possible. But I don't on turn 1, and Poliwrath uses Hypnosis, putting Ekans to sleep. Surf is doing roughly 1/3 in damage per turn, and it looks like he's prioritizing it unless he's hit Leer early into the battle. But with Ekans snoozing too long, the Poliwrath is still able to come out with a win here. I didn't pick up an additional Mint Berry, so I don't have a way to play around Hypnosis. I'm just gonna have to get lucky. And in the next battle I do, because I score a critical hit with Headbutt after using Screech, and I one-shot the Poliwrath. I do teach Acid to Ekans here in the place of Glare. Overall, this is completely inconsequential. I don't really need Glare from here on out, and I'm also not going to use Acid once during this entire playthrough, because the Rocket HQ is next, and once I defeat all of the trainers here, which are all trivial, then I can head north of Mahogany Town and pick up the Sludge Bomb TM, which is obviously the better poison type move. With it, let's see how Ekans does against Price. Seal is first, Sludge Bomb one-shots. Dugong's second, Sludge Bomb does not one-shot, I tank an Aurora Beam fairly well actually, and then I knock out his second Pokemon in 2 hits. Sludge Bomb's obviously not good against the Piloswine, it's also pretty defensive, so I went for 1 Screech here before using Headbutt, which then does massive damage, allowing me to 2-shot, and I flinch his ace along the way. As expected, the Ice-type Gym Leader is incompetent and easy to defeat. Now I should note here quickly that there is a special defense badge boost glitch in Generation 2. Unless your special attack gets very high, you will not receive the boost to your special defense. You can see that in the bottom left by the badges indicating which stat is currently boosted. Ekans' special defense is never going to get boosted because its special attack is just not high enough. A lot of Pokemon, even really good Pokemon, still don't receive the special defense boost. Ekans is essentially hopeless here, and that's really scary for the late game. Remember that Espeon is the fastest Pokemon in this entire game, and it's a Psychic type. But I don't have to think about that quite yet. First, let's think about Jasmine. I need a way to do as much damage to her Pokemon as possible, so I'm gonna head south of Goldenrod City to this little secret beach, kind of wooded area, battle these 3 trainers, and earn myself the Soft Sand. Even with this item, which will boost the power of Dig by 10%, I still think that the Steel-type Gym Leader is going to be really rough for Ekans. Let's try it at level 41 and see if I can pull off a miracle. Dig, of course, one-shots both Magnemite, but we weren't concerned about them. The Pokemon we're worried about is Steelix. I'm not sure how many Screeches I'm going to need against it. If I can one-shot, then I'll avoid her Hyper Potion use, which would be very good. Steelix misses its first Iron Tail, which is perfect. I go for my second Screech. This one also hits, taking it down to -4 defense. But Iron Tail is doing more than half to Ekans with a single hit. I don't have the time now to go for another Screech, so I'm going to have to try Dig and see how much damage it does. And it's significant, bringing Steelix down to red health. But that's not enough to get the knockout. However, Iron Tail also doesn't roll good enough damage to get the knockout. Ekans survives for the third time in this playthrough with 2 hit points. The problem now is that Dig takes 2 turns to attack the Steelix. When Jasmine uses her Hyper Potion, she's going to get another attack in. I think I should have attacked here with Headbutt to see if it would do enough damage to then one-shot with Dig on the next turn. But I didn't do that, and as a result, Steelix knocks Ekans out. I tried again, hoping that Steelix would miss a bunch of Iron Tails, and it does. It misses a lot of them. I get it all the way to -4 defense again. It hits Iron Tail, and Ekans survives with 1 hit point. I keep pushing my luck, hoping for another miss, but this time Ekans misses, and Steelix finishes Ekans again. I tried for a third time, but this just isn't working out. Steelix does have the damage it needs to sometimes two-shot Ekans, but that makes me slightly hopeful about my chances in this fight. If I level up 1 or 2 times, my defense stat and my HP stat will increase enough that I should be surviving 2 hits from the Steelix fairly consistently. Then, provided Steelix misses just 1 Iron Tail, I should be able to defeat her. I train past level 42 all the way to level 43 for the damage rounding threshold, and then I return to Jasmine. Still, things here are pretty brutal. I can bring the Steelix to -4, survive its hits, use Dig, but this is still not enough to one-shot. I do need Iron Tail to miss at least once, and I need both of my Screeches to hit to get it all the way to -4. Or I can go only to -2 and see if this is going to do enough damage to get Jasmine to use a Hyper Potion. Maybe she won't. She doesn't always use them when her Pokemon is under 50% health. In this case, she doesn't. Because of that, Dig is doing enough damage, and I can two-shot her ace. Petrol's not really that much of an issue. Dig is doing okay damage, not enough to one-shot the first coughing. However, Ekans levels up over the damage rounding threshold at 45. This does improve Dig's damage. I didn't clue onto it right away, but against the third coughing, I start using it again, and now Ekans is fairly consistently one-shotting. Also, these Pokemon can't do much damage because Sludge is resisted, so their best moves are typically Tackle or Self-Destruct, but it doesn't seem like they're prioritizing Self-Destruct, which is perfect. So he's not an issue. The rival in the underground could have been a problem if the Golbat went for Confuse Ray, but it doesn't. Dig one-shots the Magnemite. From there, Dig takes care of the Haunter, and then Sludge Bomb manages both the Sneasel and the Feraligatr, which still only has Water Gun. Inside the department store, let's look at my stat experience. Right now it looks like I can use about 2 protein or 3 protein on my attack stat, and I can use significantly more vitamins on my speed as well as my special attack and defense. By the way, calcium increased both of these quantities, so I think buying them would make sense, but I'm a little bit scared that I'm not going to move first against Red's Espeon, so instead of purchasing calcium, I opt for Carbos to improve Ekans' speed. With 4 of these, I can get my speed stat experience up above the threshold where vitamins will no longer be effective. Now I'm very close to the threshold with my attack stat experience. The threshold is 25,600, but you can still use vitamins until you hit that threshold, and the entire quantity that the vitamin adds will still be added into the stat experience even if you're this close to the threshold. Unlike in Generation 3, where the EV system caps at 100 for vitamins, and if you use a vitamin at 99, it will only give you 1 EV. I'm going to Ice Path next because there's a protein here that I can pick up and use it before I hit the threshold. If I had trained and even fought like a few extra trainers, I think I would have hit this threshold, and then this vitamin would have been ineffective. The final rocket inside of Radio Tower is of course simple for Ekans to manage, and then I backtrack to Violet City because I want to pick up one item that I forgot earlier in this playthrough, and that's the Poison Barb. It's going to be useful right away to increase damage against Clair. I want to ensure that I'm one-shotting her Dragonairs so that I don't get hit by Thunder Wave. So, does Ekans have what it needs? And the answer is yes, I am able to one-shot all 3 Dragonairs. And as is typically the case with this battle, once you one-shot the Dragonairs, you're gonna two-shot the Kingdra. So the only way to lose is Smokescreen, or a critical hit, I guess, if it used Hyper Beam or something like that. It doesn't. It uses Smokescreen, but Ekans doesn't miss, so Clair's defeated. Because this run is with a first stage Pokemon, I'm gonna do the safe play and explore the Whirl Islands and Mount Mortar to pick up additional rare candies. These 2 are quite slow to come by, but I think in the end, they'll really contribute to a successful finish. I don't want want to use them too early on either. I think I'm going to need a very high level for Espeon, maybe like 90 in order to outspeed it. I'll need at least 185 speed to move first. On my way towards Victory Road, I fight some additional trainers to level Ekans up just a little bit more. Prior to the rival, I pick up the TM for Earthquake, but I'm not going to teach this right away. It's not really that good against the Elite Four in Generation 2. While Koga is a poison type specialist, a bunch of his Pokemon also have the additional types of Bug or Flying, which makes Earthquake just not a good option. That means I'm still running the same set by the time I'm fighting the rival. Sludge Bomb obliterates Sneasel, obliterates Kadabra, Headbutt two-shots the Golbat. I do get confused, it's really annoying, but it doesn't end up causing that many problems. Ekans has snapped out by the time Magneton comes in and Dig one-shots, as well as the following Haunter, leaving only the Feraligatr, which once again still only has Water Gun. Why does he only have Water Gun? This makes no sense. It goes for Slash, which I guess is better than Water Gun. It still doesn't do much. In the end, the rival's just not really a factor in this first playthrough. Outside of the very first battle against him, that was the only win he got. With him out of the way, now it's time for the Elite Four. Will technically has a type advantage, but I'm not that worried against him since I assume that Sludge Bomb with the Poison Barb is going to be able to one-shot his Pokemon. I knock out the Xatu in a single hit, Jinx obviously falls, it's so frail. Then he sends in Slowbro. This will take multiple turns, but I poison it, and it also goes for Amnesia, which is not good for defensive setup when I'm using a physical move. His Ace Xatu is next. This one survives and goes for Confuse Ray. I was lucky here because he uses a Max Potion, but Ekans does not hit itself in Confusion, allowing me to two-shot with a Headbutt followed by Sludge Bomb. This leaves only Executor. It's a grass type. This is one of the few grass types in the game, so Sludge Bomb's super effective and I can one-shot. Okay, so I mentioned how Earthquake's not really that good during the league, but I think Headbutt has sort of outlived its usefulness. I'm going to teach Return in its place, and I did decide to also upgrade Dig to Earthquake just because Ekans doesn't have too many other options. If I need Rest for Lance, then I'll teach it in the place of Screech. Koga leads with Ariados. This Pokemon can be frustrating. If it sets up with Double Team, you consistently miss, and then it baton passes into the Fortress, which is very bulky. Luckily, this doesn't happen. I just knock it out after one Double Team. I finish the Venomoth, which is next, getting confused along the way, and then Fortress comes in, and Earthquake is doing very little damage here. I decided to lower its defense stat using Screech twice. However, it's doing a ton of damage with Swift. This might be the most damage I've ever seen Fortress do with a single hit with Swift. Muck is next. I've upgraded to Earthquake just for this Pokemon. Still, it's not quite enough to one-shot. Koga doesn't choose to use his Max Potion here, saving it for the Crobat. I get a critical hit against his Ace, but this is just barely not enough to knock it out. I get another critical hit, but Ekans doesn't roll better damage. Crobat survives, and Koga defeats me. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't expecting to lose to Koga as a poison type. Maybe I need to teach Rest for this fight. I tried again, forgetting to teach Return or Earthquake before the fight. This does not go well. I lose to the Muck instead of the Crobat. With the upgraded set, I can make it back to the Crobat, but I'm still in the same position I was in before. I just don't have enough health to survive a hit from Wing Attack. So it comes down to a little bit of luck during the fight. If I can one-shot the Venomoth with a critical hit, which is what happens, I can then use only a single Screech on the Fortress and two-shot using Earthquake. Spending less time against the Steel type prevents damage from Swift. I can't believe I'm saying that. And then my health is higher for both the Muck and the Crobat, giving me an easier time against both of them. I still have to two-shot the Muck, and I do get crit by its Sludge Bomb. Luckily, I have high orange health left over for the Crobat. It goes for Double Team, Return hits, doing about half, and then Ekans can survive the Wing Attack on red health. Luckily, Double Team does not cause a miss, and my second Return knocks out his Ace. Bruno should be easy. Hitmontop's first, Earthquake can counter its use of Dig, then I have super effective damage for the Onix. Although it sets up Sandstorm here because it survives a single hit, and Sandstorm is really annoying in Generation 2. It does 1/8 per turn, which is a lot of damage. This is downgraded to 1/16 per turn in Generation 3. Also, it prints text, plays an animation, even if animations are turned off, and so in general it's just a way that the enemy can waste a lot of your time, and sometimes bring Pokemon to their knees. But Ekans doesn't have knees, so it makes it to the Machamp, has enough health left over, and easily defeats Bruno on its first attempt, aided by a miss from Cross Chop. Karen's next, Umbreon's first. Of course, this is the most annoying Pokemon on her team. I can use Sludge Bomb, and it is going to two-shot, but I'm hit by a sand attack along the way. Vileplume comes out next. Instead of going for Stun Spore, it chooses Petal Dance, which is a bit strange to me. It's a good thing though, because I'm not paralyzed moving into the Gengar, ensuring that Ekans can outspeed and hit with Earthquake, which easily one-shots the Ghost. Murkrow goes down to Sludge Bomb, and that leaves only Houndoom. Okay, unless I miss here, Koga is going to be the most difficult Elite Four member, which is not something I was expecting. Ekans does miss, Houndoom hits with Flamethrower, luckily it doesn't burn, I get another attack, Earthquake hits this time, and Houndoom faints. For Lance, I think speed interactions are very important. Ekans is faster than every Pokemon with the exception of the Aerodactyl. It's not super effective with any of its moves, but Rock Slide still will do a lot of damage. Also, I'm not going to be able to one-hit any of Lance's Pokemon. This is one spot where it seems like Rock Slide on Ekans would be very helpful. However, that's a little bit of a bias from Generation 1 sneaking into my Generation 2 logic, because Rock Slide's effective power against Flying-type Pokemon is 150. Sludge Bombs with the Poison Barb is only 148, which is not that far behind. I could of course increase Rock Slide's damage using the Hard Stone, but this is only a 10% increase, bringing it up to 165 effective power. Even that is not going to one-shot these Dragonite, exposing Ekans to all of the awfulness that is Thunder Wave. I'm just not going to be able to win this one if I have a status condition and I don't have rest in order to heal later into the fight. So I try teaching it and then using it in the next battle, but I don't even get a chance because both of the Dragonites can just finish Ekans very quickly with moves like Thunder, Blizzard, or Hyper Beam. Without the Poison Barb, maybe I can hold the Paralyzed Cure Berry and then counter out Thunder Wave. I thought that this would work, but now Sludge Bomb doesn't have enough damage to two-shot the Dragonites. Rock Slide would definitely have enough damage here. In order to defeat both of the Dragonites, I'm going to have to get lucky with Sludge Bomb either critting or poisoning on turn 1, then I can knock them out on the second turn, and to dodge paralysis entirely, I need Lance to miss on one of the turns. He does in this case, I knock out both of the Dragonites, and I don't have a status condition for the Aerodactyl. The issue is, my moves are just not very good against it. This is a place where Rock Slide would really help. Also, the Aerodactyl is using Rock Slide, which flinches Ekans, it misses Hyper Beam on the next turn, and then Sludge Bomb does less than half. So this is my best move. I don't have other options at this point in the run. It just doesn't look like my damage ranges are good enough. Unless I can outlast with Rest, but that's not the case since Aerodactyl is faster. I tried one more time. You'll notice I don't have Rest for this fight. It's mostly because I want to black out at this point and level up throughout the league again. However, I forgot that I was holding my Paralyzed Cure Berry, and I really don't want to burn that before coming back to the league. I'll need it the next time around. So I reset one more time, take away the Paralyzed Cure Berry, and then lose to Lance. In the vast majority of playthroughs of Generation 2, the fastest way to train for the late game is grinding against the Elite Four. The random trainers around the region are just not efficient enough. Also, I know that I'm going to need a very high level for Red, so I don't want to force things here and use a bunch of rare candies prematurely. Instead, I'm going to employ the strategy that I used to always use as a kid, which is continuously battling the Elite Four, blacking out until I defeat the trainer that was walling me. After a total of 3 blackouts to the league, my Ekans is faster than the Aerodactyl on Lance's team, dramatically shifting the advantage to me. That said, I'm still not really feeling confident about this level for the late game, so I made the decision to black out one more time before coming back and facing Lance at level 67. This time around, I'm going to be using the Paralyzed Cure Berry as well as Rest to make it through this fight. Sludge Bomb two-shots Gyarados. It's going to two-shot pretty much everything, including both of the Dragonites. I just don't want to get hit by Thunder Wave here if I can avoid it. However, the second Dragonite is able to land it before I move on to the Aerodactyl. But because my level is higher, I'm easily able to heal here with Rest, and then when Aerodactyl is going for Hyper Beam, it's wasting turns, so I'm able to just consistently heal. Eventually, I have strong health, and I knock out the Aerodactyl with the second hit. Charizard comes in. I wish I had Rock Slide for this thing, but Sludge Bomb at this high level still gets the job done, leaving only one Dragonite. And at this level, I'm able to two-shot and easily survive Outrage. Ekans finishes the league with a time of 1 hour 43 minutes and 48 seconds. Okay, so this is cutting things a little bit close, but I think it might be possible for Ekans to get a sub 2 hour playthrough in its first attempt. To pull that off, I'm going to have to not have any problems during the Kanto section of the game. I am going to grab Curse, although I don't know if this is going to be useful for Ekans. After all, losing speed when Espeon is likely going to be second is not a good idea, but if Snorlax comes in third, then potentially I could set up against it, although then I'll be exposed to massive negative damage from both Charizard as well as Blastoise. Despite what a lot of you think in the comments, Curse is not always the solution in Generation 2. Erica is really easy because of type effectiveness. Sabrina is also really easy because I'm faster than all of her Pokemon, and both Sludge Bomb or Return will one-hit them. Misty is a little bit sketchier because I have to two-shot the Quagsire and the Lapras. That would have given it the potential to use something like Blizzard and Freeze Ekans, but it doesn't. Of course, Earthquake makes Surge really easy. Earthquake also makes Brock easy. This is another reason why we don't need Giga Drain. The Ground-type move continues its spree against Blaine, and then for Janine, I could essentially use any move here. Obviously, I'm not going to use Sludge Bomb because it's going to be slower, but her team is so bad that I would win anyway. That brings us to Blue, and I was expecting this fight to be pretty tricky. Pidgeot's first, I can knock it out with 2 hits, then he sends in Alakazam, but I'm faster and I can one-shot. Rhydon follows, its Earthquake is going to hit really hard, and this might be the only Pokemon in the entire run that I should be using Giga Drain for. However, it just goes for Fury Attack. There is always a random chance that the AI just chooses this move instead of going for the move that's going to do the most damage. It's a quirk of multi-hit moves in Generation 2, and it's the reason that both Blaine and Price also have this behavior. Because of that luck, I'm gonna beat Blue very easily. He also switches into Gyarados, I knock it out, then the Rhydon. After that, both the Arcanine and the Executor are really simple to clean up. Okay, things have been just slow enough that I don't think I'm gonna get that sub 2 hour time. My Blue split was 1 hour 58 minutes and 20 seconds, and I need to be very careful about the late game to not get walled at Red's Espeon. Just outside of Mount Silver, I saved the game. This is so I can reset if my rare candies don't give me the speed required to move first against the Espeon. I'm gonna use all 10 right now to scout out what my speed stat's going to be at level 84. At level 83, my speed is 183, and then at level 84, my speed ticks over to 185. One more than Espeon. I am so glad that I bought those 4 Carbos back in the department store. Without those, I would be slower than Espeon, and I would have to do additional training right now, wasting a bunch of time. That said, we still don't know if Ekans is going to have the damage ranges needed to one-shot the Espeon. And depending on the Espeon's damage range with Psychic, that might be the threshold that's really important. Red leads with Pikachu. I'm faster than his entire team. I can use Earthquake, one-shot the Pikachu, and move on to the Espeon. Okay, Sludge Bomb, please do enough damage. And it doesn't. Espeon survives with high red health. It uses Psychic, and while it doesn't one-shot Ekans, it does more than enough damage. While I can knock out the Espeon and move on to the Snorlax, I don't really think there's a way to survive here. I tried using Rest in hopes that Body Slam wouldn't do that much damage, but it's doing almost half to Ekans. So with 3 uses of the normal type move, Snorlax gets the knockout. I think there's a fast way to solve this problem. Equip the Poison Barb in the place of the leftovers, and then hopefully this will give me the damage range to knock out the Espeon. Even just 30 to 40% of the time might be better than going out of Mount Silver and doing a bunch of training. So, moment of truth, is it going to be enough damage? And the answer is yes. Espeon goes down to a single hit, and now I have full health left over for the Snorlax. Because of this, it wants to set up on turn 1, choosing Amnesia, which is perfect for me. However, it doesn't look like Ekans is going to two-shot, but then I get a critical hit with Sludge Bomb, knocking out the bear. Okay, this is great. Venusaur goes for Solar Beam, which makes no sense. I two-shot, taking no damage. I have full health left over for the Charizard. Now what needs to happen is I have to survive a Flamethrower, followed by either a Blizzard or a Surf from the Blastoise. If I can do that, and two-shot both the Charizard and the Blastoise, then Ekans has won. And it didn't need to use Rest, and it also didn't need to use Curse, which is really satisfying. Sludge Bomb is able to take care of the Charizard in 2 hits. I have roughly half health left over for the Blastoise. I go for Sludge Bomb. It does what looks like half. Surf hits, bringing Ekans down to 25 hit points, and then I use Sludge Bomb, finishing off Red's final Pokemon. Ekans, in its first playthrough, gets a time of 2 hours and 2 minutes, with 16 resets, 5 blackouts at level 84, with a game time of 7 hours and 19 minutes. As far as first playthroughs go, this one was honestly not that bad. The 2 trainers that I really have to sort out for the follow-up run are Jasmine as well as Lance. There's also Falkner in the early game, and I think in my first run I definitely lucked by him using Poison Sting. Bite is the more consistent strategy. That said, Ekans in the early game is just not a very consistent Pokemon. I leveled to 8 for the rival battle, and I still lost against the Totodile. This is not the fastest early game, so I'm just going to keep playing even though this is very annoying. I also had a blackout in Sprout Tower against the final Sage. This is advantageous for Ekans because then I can get more trainer boosted experience in the early game to grind a little bit more towards level 15. But I still have to go from 14 to 15 on wild encounters, which is very slow. All of this has a major consequence. If you want to use Bite for Falkner, Ekans is going to be significantly slower in the early game. Bite is much more consistent, 2-shotting the Pidgey unless I get a critical hit like I did here, and then 3-shotting the Pidgeotto. However, the cost of this strategy puts me 4 minutes and 25 seconds behind after the first split. Here's the thing though, my damage ranges at level 13 with Poison Sting are just not very good. 54.4% chance to 3-shot the Pidgey, meaning it's probably going to get set up with 3 to 4 Mud Slaps, and then for the Pidgeotto I have a 29% chance to 5-hit, and a guaranteed 6-hit, and Gust has a guaranteed 7-hit. As I've demonstrated before, it is possible to win here with Poison Sting, but for this second playthrough, since it's such a long run, and it is very exhausting to play like 4 hours of Ekans over the course of 2 days, I didn't want to take too many risks, especially in the early game. I'm just hoping that my optimizations for this second run are going to earn back this 4.5 minutes later into the playthrough. I'm still hoping that Ekans is going to be able to pull off the sub 2 hour time. In the spirit of playing conservatively, I did a little bit more training in the early game, getting Ekans to level 26 before Whitney. The other major change I made here is that I do have the Goldberry from the trade in the department store. This gives Ekans enough health for Clair and Headbutt together to work their magic. Okay, so now we're going to watch some B-roll around Ekritique City as I fight the Kimono girls, go to the Lake of Rage, as well as clear out the lighthouse. I need to take some time to talk about my hidden power choice. As you can see on the right hand side of the screen, I have gone for hidden power water with Ekans. This is a typing I typically don't like to use because of the DV spread that it gives your Pokemon. 7 HP, 14 attack, and 13 defense. So that's -8 to my HP DV, -1 to my attack DV, and -2 to my defense DV. The attack and the defense seem like they wouldn't matter that much, but they really do against red. If I ran, for example, hidden power ground, I would lose 3 points in my attack DV, which when damage ranges are so close against the Espeon and I'm trying to squeeze through with like a 30 to 60% chance to one-shot, we'll lower this chance to say 20 to 40%, and I didn't think that that was acceptable. Even though ground type coverage is better for Ekans, I can save turns because Dig is going to waste extra turns every time I'm using it for ground type damage, and also hidden power ground helps me in the Jasmine fight because I don't have to go underground, so when she uses a hyper potion, I'm more likely to just 2-shot after that if I hold on to Screech. But in this case with Ekans, I don't even need to get Screech because against Jasmine, I'm just going to use hidden power water to 2-shot the Steelix. The other option that of course I considered is hidden power ice. This is typically the best hidden power typing in the game because you have perfect attack, perfect HP, and only 13 in your defense, losing 2 DV points in total. The reason it's so good is because it helps out against Lance, but I did a quick test timing out the section of the game after you beat Lance until you respawn, fly back to Indigo Plateau, and fight the League again. This costs roughly 25 seconds every time you do it. So my thinking was, since when you black out, you spawn outside Indigo Plateau and you can simply walk back in and fight Will right away, defeating the entire Elite Four plus Lance every single time with hidden power ice at a lower level is going to lead to slightly more time bloat than defeating all of the League trainers and then blacking out to Lance every single time. Whenever you're blacking out, there is very little time bloat, just the time that you need to spend walking from in front of Indigo Plateau back to Will. Also, another reason that hidden power ice isn't exceptional is because it 3-hits the Steelix, meaning Jasmine is going to heal or likely to heal after 2 turns with a hyper potion. I could have lucked through her with her just not using the hyper potion and then me knocking out her Steelix, but that didn't really feel like the strategy that was going to get me most consistently to the beginning of the League as fast as was possible. So I made the choice to go for hidden power water to smooth out this entire section of the game. And really, Ekans doesn't have any problems here, and there's so little different from my first run that we're just going to go all the way to the League. I do need to explain something else here. You're going to notice at the end of this run that I have more blackouts than I did the first time around. This is because Ekans consistently blacks out against Will at the beginning of the League, just because it doesn't quite have the damage ranges needed at level 52 to one-shot all of his key Pokemon. By the time I get between 55 and 58, the training is much more efficient because I'm one-shotting things like the Xatu. The strategy here is really simple. Save as much time as possible. Never save, never heal, never buy items. If I do all of that, I make it through the Elite Four over and over again, very quickly. Sometimes I get slowed down, like when my damage ranges with hidden power water get bad against the Fortress, causing it to go for explosion, one-shotting Ekans. This is only a minor nuisance. Eventually though, I'm going to get to my target target level, which is 68 for Lance. I was one level too low, so I blacked out, fought the Elite Four again, and then defeated him at level 70. Using the same strategy as before. Sludge Bomb Return, Rest, and Earthquake. So did the conservative early game strategy put me too far behind? Well, the answer is yeah, it did. If I was risky in the early game, Ekans definitely would have a much better time right now. That being the case, even with the inefficient training in the early game, I'm still 4 minutes and 25 seconds ahead of my former pace once Lance is defeated. Throughout Kanto, I gained small advantages as well. By the way, I am going to use Giga Drain on the Rhydon, I just don't want to get hit by Earthquake. If it crit, I would be really sad. At the current level though, Ekans will survive a non-crit because Earthquake does between 78 and 93% damage. But with Giga Drain, I don't need to worry about that. And hilariously, for maybe the first time ever, Ekans only needs a single move to defeat Red. I've trained to level 75, I grind up a little bit on wild Pokemon to 76. I wasn't sure if my stat experience was going to be perfect here because I hit the vitamin threshold earlier and was only able to use 3 Carbos instead of 4. So the one extra level is just a little bit of safety from me in this run because I don't want to waste 2 hours and then reset over and over again to Red, not having enough speed to move first against the Espeon. At level 86, I do have enough speed, and I still did at level 85. The damage ranges here are extremely precise. 61.7% chance to one-shot the Espeon. After that, 90.9% chance to two-shot the Snorlax, and from there, everything else is a 2-hit. Flamethrower's maximum damage roll is 51%, and Blastoise using Surf is 42%. So it's key that I two-shot the Snorlax after it uses Amnesia, because then I will survive the Flamethrower followed by the Surf. Venusaur has to use Solar Beam on turn 1, Espeon cannot attack, and I must one-shot it. But if all of this works, then I just sweep his team, spamming exclusively Sludge Bomb. And Ekans clocks in with a second playthrough time of 1 hour 56 minutes and 11 seconds, with 1 reset and 17 blackouts. All of that training really did have a cost. I finished the game at level 86 with a game time of 7 hours and 30 minutes. This result in terms of real time is 5 minutes and 49 seconds faster than my first run. It's a modest improvement, but I'm still happy with it. I think there are really risky ways that we could play Ekans to make it faster, like running the Quick Claw to outspeed the Espeon, and then naturally outspeeding everything else on Red's team, but the damage ranges aren't very favorable. It feels like there's this beautiful synergy for Ekans. It outspeeds Espeon and gets good damage ranges against both the Snorlax and the Blastoise at around the same level. Just to go a little bit deeper into this, here are the notes that I took. At level 84, Ekans only has a 37.8% chance to one-hit the Espeon, but at 85, it has a 61.7% chance. At 84, only a 70% chance against the Snorlax, but at 85, a 90% chance for the Snorlax. At 84, 75% chance for the Blastoise, and at 85, a guaranteed 2-hit. And if I go down one more level to 83, then Ekans starts speed tying the Espeon and everything gets really bad, because I only have a 21% chance to one-shot it, which for me, with a speed tie, is just not good enough. I find these results really interesting because Ekans earned itself a placement in the F tier, just behind another snake-like Pokemon, Onix, and just ahead of another one, Dratini. The reason I find this placement really interesting is because it perfectly mirrors what is currently recorded in my Pokemon Yellow tier list. Onix comes before Ekans, comes before Dratini, and all three of them are very close together, with only Shelder breaking up the combo of the snakes. Actually, it's less of a combo and more of an anti-synergy. The snake Pokemon are not very good in solo challenges. At least they can bring us all a little bit of fun entertainment. If you support me on Patreon or through YouTube memberships, thank you so much, it means the world to me. Now, if you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.